Welcome to the Invested Dads Podcast, simplifying financial topics so that you can take action and make your financial situation better. Helping you to understand the current world of financial planning and investments, here are your hosts, Josh, Robb, and Austin Wilson.
All right, here we go. This is the Invested Dads Podcast, Episode 1, the pilot episode. So my name is Austin Wilson, and I'm here with Josh Robb, and we are here to help you become more comfortable with your financial situation. Josh, what can we tell you, the listeners, about what to expect and what our show's about here?
Yeah, well, Austin and I, we both work together, but we have two different roles. And so as we hang out together and talk and interact with clients, we thought, we both come with a unique perspective where we can help listeners take hard or difficult financial topics and kind of whittle it down from financial advisor's perspective and a research analyst perspective. So we each come with a different approach, and together we hope we can simplify and give people a better understanding of their finances, maybe some tips and help to get them closer to their goals.
So how often do you think we're gonna be publishing new episodes, or what's our plan there?
Well, we could probably talk every day together, but no one wants to hear us that much. So we thought if we could do it weekly, that would be something that a week for 30 minutes or so, depending on how in-depth the topic is, just give a chance for listeners to tackle one little thing at a time. So every week, throw something new out there.
We're going to have these podcasts listed at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the other podcast players that you can really imagine. So if you use it, it'll be there. And it'll also be available on our website at theinvesteddads.com. And we'll have a podcast player right there on the website. You can listen to this episode as well as every episode as it comes out there. So we'd love to have you visit the website there.
There's going to be equal representation. Austin is a Mac guy. I have not joined that dark side yet. So
he's coming around.
Yep.
As he looks at his iPad.
Yes, as I look at an iPad, the one Apple product I own.
Josh, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do? What's your background? Who are you? I mean, get us to know the real Josh Robb.
So I've been in financial advisor for the last 7 years now. I work with clients. I do the financial planning. I enjoy the retirement planning. The thing I like a lot about my job is I get the chance to help clients picture and dream about a goal and then give them objectives in little short goals to get there. And so we can work together to say, okay, if this is the end goal you want to get to, what do you need to do today to start along that path? And then work with them along that path. It's really fun and rewarding for me to help people do that. It really derived out of, I spent almost a decade in the nonprofit world working with kids and families and seeing a lot of long-term impacts and even generational impacts of decisions people made about money. And the more and more I saw that, the more I thought, if I could help people kind of set those goals, instead of thinking day to day, can I be thinking bigger picture? You can change generations with those type of mindsets. So that's really what got me into this. Austin and I, we've known each other before working here, but Austin, why don't you tell everybody kind of where you got started?
I started working at Cooper Tire and Rubber Company in Findlay, Ohio after I graduated college, and I spent about 4 years working there in various areas of finance, from internal controls to global financial planning and analysis, all the way to plant accounting. So I have a variety of different perspectives from that side of things and the corporate finance side of things, as well as cost accounting. Ooh. That was not the most fun times there. That experience kind of shaped my perspective. So I have a lot of background in financial statement analysis and stuff like that, where I can use that to help our clients with their investments that they hold and potential new investments and ideas and managing portfolios and stuff like that. It actually kind of brought me back to the investment side of finance from my background in school, which is kind of levered towards that financial services side of education, I feel like. So it was good to come back and get back into this environment and to things that I really enjoyed and have a passion for. So yeah, that's kind of my background and how I got to be here and as a research analyst here. And I'm excited to share my journey as we go along with each episode with you guys. So personally, Josh, you're a dad, right?
I am. I have 4 kids, two boys and 2 girls.
So you're a mega dad. You got 4 kids.
I got a lot of them, and it's great. And they're every other, so they get a chance to interact, and it's fun to watch the different personalities there. And you're also a dad.
I am a dad. Yep, we got one little girl. Her name's Juliana, and she is a cutie. So lots of hair. That's what everyone ever says.
Yes, there's more hair on his daughter than I think all my kids combined at birth. So,
and you're married.
I am married. I've been married for, it'll be 15 years this year. So been a little while for me. It's been one of those where, it's amazing, it's awesome, it's challenging, and all that together, and I wouldn't change it at all. In fact, marriage is what sounds weird to say, but that's what brought Austin and I together. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But the other thing that Austin and I have in common, though, as we get talking about our personal and professional, is we love Excel sheets. And so for the longest time, it was me in the office harping on how great Excel is and no one listening. And Austin came in, and I finally had someone else that was pounding the table on how great.
I know sometimes wants to message each other some sweet functions we're playing with. That's just, you've really arrived and got a good friend when you can do that.
Yeah, I'll get a message. Hey, Josh, come down to my office. And it's just to show what's happening in Excel. Look at this.
It's pretty.
I actually had a dream in Excel once. That was the whole dream was comprised of an Excel sheet.
That is the dream.
It was a good dream. That's one way we connect. But how we first connected, Austin can tell a little bit about the story, but I'll start with on the way in the car. It was December a couple years ago. 4 years ago, man. 4 years ago, I helped my wife. She's a wedding photographer, and on Saturdays, I'm her second shooter. So it just means she gets to boss me around all day. We're on our way. How it works, I don't have any foreknowledge of where we're going or who we're meeting with, but on the drive over, my wife goes, we're doing a wedding with this lady named Jenna and her fiance, Austin, and Austin is going to be your new best friend by the end of the day. That's not something she says often. In fact, she usually is warning me about certain aspects, but I just remember that she said, you and Austin are going to be best friends. And that was it. And that was the start of our bromance, so to speak.
It's been a beautiful thing. So yeah, going on 4 years now, we met, and Josh watched me fall down in the parking lot. And that was when he knew that we had a lot in common. We're both uncoordinated.
Uncoordinated, clumsy, and are accident prone.
So Josh, why the Invested Dads? Where did that name come from?
Well, it came from almost concussion, honestly. But speaking of accident prone, Austin and I were thrown in the idea of doing a podcast, and we were trying to decide how or what would we do? How would we approach this? And as we were talking through, we're two guys, we're two dads. We want to kind of make this a simple, easy to understand topics that, we don't want anybody to be afraid of investing, because we think that's the best way to reach your goals. And so from two dads that are invested, we want to make sure that other dads can also get invested. And we happen to own vests with our suits. And so,
see our website at theinvesteddads.com for vest pictures.
Yep. And that was kind of where, liking dad jokes, we said, if we are invested dads, we're dads invest, and we are dads that invest. So it kind of built from there.
And that can also be taken a number of different ways. We feel like being a dad is a very important role too. So we're invested in our families, and we feel like our background in finance and educating our families in that and keeping them on track financially is a very important thing. So we're invested in our families, we're invested in our kids, we're invested in the markets, and we're invested in you. So
it's a lot of investing.
We're here to make a difference and hopefully just boil down some of these things you hear about on the news or on the radio, or just some things that sound really complicated, and just let you guys know that it's not as scary as it sounds. All of these things can be easily explained and just made to a point where we can take action together and just make a generation of financial savvy people. So I'm excited about that.
Yep. And to clarify, you don't need to be a dad to listen to this. Although we're invested dads, this is for anybody. And that was kind of our thought too, is when we look at the people we interact with, I love going and talking to young college students and giving them those steps to get started in the workforce. But then I also like meeting with those that are on the edge of retirement and working through those plans to make sure they're financially set. So we're hoping to hit topics for everybody throughout this time frame. And some of those topics, Austin, what are some stuff we've talked about? What's kind of in our queue coming up for this year?
Yeah, we've got some exciting things planned. I will preface this by saying we want to talk about what you want us to talk about. So you guys are very important to what we want to talk about. So as you think of something that you might have a question financially, feel free to send us an email and we'll talk about what our listeners want to talk about going forward. So that there's a form on our website where you can send us an email, send us a question, and we would be happy to include that in a future episode of a podcast if it fits in there. So we're super excited about what you guys want to hear about. But some stuff that we've already talked about is things like dollar cost averaging, like that investing over time, little bits here and there versus lump sum investing, that kind of discussion. Also topics around life insurance and stuff like that. How much do you need? What kind do you need? How about what is a fiduciary and how might that help you on your financial journey? Dividend investing, that's something that's very exciting to us and something that we'd love to talk about, and how that can make a really big impact on your investing and your financial portfolio performance over time. And then some common things that you hear about, like what is active investing versus passive investing? So active management versus passive management, and what are the pros and the cons and the benefits of each? Those are some cool topics, as well as something simple like what's the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund, and how can those better serve your financial needs going forward? So those are kind of some cool topics that we're thinking about. But like I said, we want to hear what you want to hear about. So if there's something that we don't talk about, feel free to just hit us up, and we'd be glad to put together an episode for that.
Yep, we're always looking for feedback. We sit around and work up ideas, or something that maybe I was talking to a client about, and I said, you know what, that would be a good podcast. We kind of keep track of. But if you're listening to us and say, hey, I just want to know something, shoot us an email. Fill out that form online. Speaking of that, for the start of this year, we're in January here. We just are getting into 2020 even numbers, which are always pretty to see on paper. I don't know. I kind of feel weird. Old. I know when you think backwards to it.
Remember the 20s?
Oh man. So the idea though is, what can you do getting started this new year? Kind of like a New Year's resolution. I try not to do any kind of workout resolutions because those never last. But
actually, you told me about a donut resolution you made last year. Yes. How's that coming along?
To eat donuts as much as possible and as often as possible is a New Year's resolution that has probably been one of my best so far.
It's the invested dad bod.
That dad bod is taken to another level when you go invested dad bod. Donuts are a wholesome food, so to speak.
So what are some practical things that listeners can take action maybe at the beginning of this new year as they try and set themselves up for success financially?
Yeah, and that's, as Austin and I were talking about this first podcast, our first thing is we always want to help whoever's listening. What can we do to help out? Because that's why we're doing this. We can hear each other talk without a microphone. What can we do to help? The easiest thing, we're at the beginning of the year. As you're looking at your company, if you have a 401k or retirement plan with your company, am I getting that match? A lot of companies will offer a match, or they'll add money to your account if you add money. That's free money on the table. It's only there if you add money in yourself. And so just make sure you're getting that free money. Put in your own money to match that. A lot of companies will say, we'll give 3% if you put 3% in, or something along that line. If they have that or offer that, make sure you take advantage. The other one is, although we're in 2020, you can still make a Roth contribution for 2019. A Roth IRA, you have until tax day to make a contribution. That's the other thing you can do starting this year, is you can actually look back and say, can I add money for last year and fill up a Roth IRA? So you could put $6,000 into a Roth IRA, as long as you have to have some earned income, but it has to be below or less than $193,000. That's if you're married filing jointly. If you're single, it's $122,000. If you have less than that of adjusted gross income, and we're using some big words now, but that's, if you look on your tax reform, there's your adjusted gross income. That's after you take some of your deductions there at the top of the tax form. But if you make less than that, you can make a contribution for last year and still make a contribution for this year. So again, talk to your CPA or your financial advisor about that. But just two things you can do right away at the beginning of the year. Look at your 401k or 403b, whatever your retirement plan is at work. Can I make sure I grab all that free money? And then two, a Roth IRA, and we'll talk about that later, what it is and why it's important. But am I adding as much as I can to my retirement accounts for last year? So those are two takeaways that I just, started this year as you're reviewing everything. Maybe you had a year-end review and you got a raise or something. Can I max out what I have there? And speaking of getting raises, that's the other tip. And we'll have an episode on some of this stuff, but it was one of those things that we call it the 50-50 rule. Austin, what's that 50-50 rule?
Oh yeah, that 50-50 rule is if you get a 3% raise and you take 50% of that and you adjust your standard of living and say, I want to live on that additional 1.5%, that's great. And you get to have a couple extra dollars in your monthly budget or whatever. But if you take that other 1.5% and you apply that to your investments, whether that be through a Roth IRA, as Josh mentioned, or through increasing your 401k or something like that, an investment vehicle like that, then that can have amazingly huge benefit to your retirement savings over time. And you won't know, your standard of living will still be able to get a little bit better over time, and you won't feel like you're dipping into your budget to do that, but you're really going to have a huge difference over 20, 30 years. So yeah, that 50-50 rule, it's a really cool thing. It can make a huge difference over time through just little changes, which is great. So yeah, these practical little things are things that can make a big difference that we're definitely excited about talking about. How to set each other up for success over time. Time's the key with all of investing, and we love to talk about how time can help any investor. Yeah, those are some good wins and some good things that you guys can take away even starting right now in January 2020 and just take some action and make a huge difference to your financial situation. So Josh, what do we want listeners to do? How can they support us and what we're doing going forward and all of that?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, subscribe to this podcast. If you want to know each week when we push out a new episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button on whether you're using the iTunes or the Google Play or whatever the app you're using. And then check out our website for a little more detail about Austin and I. We shared a little bit about who we are. I do know, Austin, you ride motorcycles.
I do. Yep. I'm an avid motorcycle fan. 2 wheels for life.
That's right. And speaking of that, do you know why the motorcycle could not make it up the hill?
My motorcycles make it. No, I don't know.
Because it was too tired. Yep.
Yeah, that happened.
You are listening to the Invested Dads podcast. Visit us online at theinvesteddads.com. And we're back with the Invested Dads.
Hey, Austin, you know what's awesome?
What's awesome?
Free swag.
Free swag, like what kind of free swag?
Like a t-shirt.
You like t-shirts?
Yeah. How could a listener get a t-shirt?
Well, listeners can get a t-shirts by helping us get started by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. So, this just in, breaking news, the first 25 subscribers to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts will get a free official The Invested Dads t-shirt.
So they leave us a review.
Leave us a review. Leave us a screenshot. So take a screenshot of that review you left on Apple Podcasts and email it to hello@theinvesteddads.com, and then we'll work with you from there to get you your swag.
Make a review on iTunes. Screenshot it. Email us at hello@theinvesteddads.com.
That's right.
And then we'll get back with them to get them the shirt.
First 25 are going to get a sweet free shirt.
Sounds good.
Yeah, keep an eye on our social media. You'll get to see what that awesome shirt looks like.
Awesome. Hopefully this was a good intro to who we are and what we're going to be doing, and look for our next podcast coming out next week.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as part of our journey. Thanks. Have a great day.
Yep. See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Invested Dads podcast. This episode has ended, but your journey towards a better financial future doesn't have to. Head over to theinvesteddads.com to access all the links and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and we had a positive impact on your life, leave us a review, click subscribe, and don't miss the next episode. Josh Robb and Austin Wilson work for Hicks & Zerker Capital Management. All opinions expressed by Josh, Austin, or any podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Hicks & Zerker Capital Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Hicks & Zerker Capital Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. There is no guarantee that the statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. Securities investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful.